Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope y'all grinding well in Warframe. Operation Buried Debts has kind of concluded with the boss being released for us to fight, I guess. While this is a timed event and you won't be able to fight the Exploiter Orb forever, the devs did confirm that this whole Thermia Fractures event will be reoccurring, similar to how Barrow visits every 2 weeks. So no need to stress if you feel like you're not ready, haven't even taken down the Prophet Taker or something like that, which kinda doesn't matter because the Exploiter Orb fight is pretty easy. But I would still not recommend anyone to go for a solo run, not because it's difficult to survive or anything, it just takes a really long time. Much longer than a run for the Prophet Taker. Alright then, for the sake of info, I'm gonna run down on some basics to the Exploiter Orb fight before we jump into a couple of recommendations for weapons and overall setup. First off, just head outside into the Orb Vallis and mark your waypoint for the caves just northeast of the Harundi crater, right here. Get into the cave and head straight for the gates. They should open automatically for you since all the code hashes have been scanned successfully. You might notice several ore veins here and there, but it seems that they are unmineable. I guess, surely that's not even a word. Anyway, just ignore all that and head deeper into the caves until you come about what seems like a post-apocalyptic scene of Fortuna. To clarify, this is not Fortuna, it is Deck 12, an old abandoned and destroyed base where the Solaris United used to live. Anyway, to start the boss fight or phase 1 of it, since there will be 2 phases, you first need to turn on the Thermia Condenser, and this machine will help in dispensing Thermia canisters around the area, which will be crucial to the boss fight. It is located on the upper floor towards the left hand side from your point of entry. Once you have that thing turned on, the Exploiter Orb should probably make an entrance from the outside. If you're a Chroma, you can just sit back and wait for the thing and maybe have Vex armor on for protection, just in case, not really necessary. For some other frames though, it may be best to stand behind some cover until the boss intro plays out. Once the intro is done, very quickly start shooting the footings, basically rock formations that the Exploiter Orb is using to perch itself high up away from you. Should be pretty easy. Once the footings are destroyed, the orb will crash down on its belly and Zood will signal you to attack its vents, which are these things. The Exploiter will kind of flaunt them and make itself vulnerable for a couple of seconds, so it shouldn't be too much trouble. You'll only be able to destroy one before the orb freezes the rest of the vents, making them invulnerable, and starts moving to the opposite side of the area. Now, we will need help from the Thermia canisters to thaw out the vents, which you can find around a couple of places. Easiest ones to spot are these two, both opposite one another and close to your initial entrance way into Deck 12. Basically, what you gotta do is grab one Thermia canister and throw it at the orb's frozen vents a couple of times until it thaws out completely, then shoot to destroy them. To throw a canister, first get close to the orb, aim and hit the alternate button, and while it is in mid-air, you have to shoot the canister so that it blows up and spews hot lava, or Thermia I guess, onto the vents. Now I don't know if this is intended or not, but with the new melee system, it seems that you won't be able to throw the canister if your Warframe is holding a melee in the other hand. Simple remedy is to just tap your mouse to fire, instantly switching to your primary or secondary, and you should be able to throw the canister again. Repeat this process until you successfully destroy 2 vents, at which point the orb will move to perch itself high up top and spawn coolant arachnoids. 4 of them, which are very easy to kill. I don't even know the point of this stage in the fight. But anyway, once you're done with that, the orb will move back to its original position, where all you gotta do is just repeat the process of destroying the last vent using the Thermia canisters. Once that is done, phase 2 will begin and it will commence outside in the Vallis. So get yourself out of the Deck 12 base, head out from where you came, and you will pretty much immediately confront the orb. This stage of the boss fight is actually pretty damn simple, but pretty damn wary for anyone who wants to do this whole job solo. Your objective is to cause the Exploiter Orb to overheat, which is indicated by a gauge on the upper left of the screen, what I'd advise for you to do is to manage the coolant arachnoids first and foremost at any given point during the boss fight. They will swarm to help the exploiter cool down, and by manage I mean just kill them left and right, wherever you see him. Grab the canisters that drop from dead arachnoids, fill them up with thermia using the fractures, and simply toss them at the orb to cause it to overheat faster. You'll have to rinse and repeat this process a lot. Like, a lot. Sooner or later the gauge will fill up, meaning the exploiter orb has overheated. Simply jump onto the thing. Yes, on to the thing, and a short but cool cutscene will play showing your Warframe ripping out part of the orb's hatch. What you do now is simply shoot the vulnerability in the orb's armor. You'll have to do this for a total of 3 times before the fight ends. Alright, just a short disclaimer before we move on to weapons and stuff. The weapons and setup that I will share are not the absolute best because I haven't tested every single weapon combination out there. I just know what works really well at this point in time for me, which is where you guys come in. If you have any suggestions at all or want to share your own weapon setups or Warframe setups, please feel free to do so down in the comments below. I very much welcome them, and it will be a huge help to the Warframe community before, you know, the real legends and veterans start breaking down this new boss fight into tiny little pieces. Chroma is not really required here, I have to say. It's not that difficult to survive the exploiter orb's attacks. I think most frames plus a Magus Elevate on your operator will do just fine. And in many cases, if a chroma is not absolutely and certainly required, then there are probably better frames to use. Maybe an Octavia or Sarine could perform better during phase 2, where managing the coolant arachnoids is a crucial but tedious task. Chroma works pretty well for me, especially with this build here which utilizes adaptation. You won't die, you'll be fine. And if you don't have adaptation, then an alternate build to go for would be this. Just keep in mind that you can't really rely on Vex armor for too long because the fight takes a long time and the energy pickups don't come by as often. You can certainly try a Rhino with the build focused on Iron Skin and or Power Strength. Inaros would be kind of inefficient if you ask me. I mean, you won't and can't die, that's for sure, but then you don't have any abilities to significantly boost damage. I'm kind of interested in Octavia, but haven't really had the time to test her out for this fight. She might have some survivability issues, I think. And remember, all these recommendations are for people who just want to solo this thing for whatever reason. In a pub match, I think even a Loki would do. Now for weapons, I'm gonna go straight to the secondary. It will be your primary throughout the majority of the Exploiter Orb boss fight, if you know what I mean. You'll be using it a lot with carrying the thermia canisters around and whatnot. This Rattleguts kit gun works super duper well. Admittedly, I do have a Riven on it, but even without a Riven, I imagine it would probably be pretty damn good for the job. With this build, for me, it basically takes a couple of bullets to destroy the coolant arachnoids, and that is with no Vex armor whatsoever, so pretty quick and easy. You can use this gun to destroy the vents as well, but I found that with Vex armor, it is a hell of a lot faster. Without it, I think you'll definitely have to go through a few reloads. I don't think it's the best weapon for shooting the orb with, but with Vex armor on, no problem at all. And speaking of reloads, slap on a Pax Charge Arcane on this thing and you won't have to worry about ammo for this fight completely. Don't listen to anyone who tells you to bring ammo restore. I suggest you use your primary for dealing with the vents and damaging pretty much anything else other than the coolant arachnoids. I've used a Tigress Prime modded for corrosive. Takes 2 shots without Vex armor, which means 4 thanks to the duplex system. But really, your kit gun will do most of the heavy lifting of managing the coolant arachnoids, so be sure to pay attention to that. For melees, well, just use anything with range to deal with the tiny mite arachnoids during phase 1. Honestly, they just tickle my chroma, so I wouldn't worry too much about them. As for arcanes, well, a lot of players don't have a lot of arcanes, so these will be purely suggestions and not necessities by any means. Arcane Warmth works brilliantly well during phase 1 as the orb throws lots of ice at you, slowing you down massively if you get procced. Arcane Velocity here speeds up your secondary fire rate every time you crit, which is like 99% of the time for me with my Riven Kit Gun. It helps out a lot with taking out Arachnoids really quickly. For your operator, I highly recommend Magus Elevate. This will keep you alive throughout the fight, no problem. You can have 2 if you want, or put in Magus Lockdown, which kinda doesn't do much here, but it can be useful to locate Arachnoids if things get a little chaotic. Not to mention, it incapacitates enemies for a few seconds, which could prove useful in preventing those coolant Arachnoids from cooling down their Orb Mother, which is the most important thing in Phase 2, which also takes the longest. So yeah, to summarize, don't do this solo unless you really have to, because it's gonna take a really long time in Phase 2 especially. With my Kit Gun, I can deal with the Arachnoids fairly easily, but even then it gets really tricky trying to juggle between filling up and throwing canisters while managing those annoying little twerps. As always, feel free to leave your suggestions down below. I don't know everything there is to know in Warframe, and I'm definitely far away from being the best player. I just shared what worked really well for me, so I'd highly appreciate it if you did the same. That's all for now. If you found this video helpful or even cool, be sure to hit like and subscribe, or click on the logo over here, check out some of the videos, and then consider hitting that subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.